What's up, dudes and dudettes? This is Ryan from the What's Up Man podcast. We're doing something a little different today. This is going to be a smaller segment. We're going to call it Rolling Solo. At times, Brandon and I cannot meet up, and so we're just going to do little segments. It's hard to get together and strike while the iron's hot on some things that are current events with us two. We're both dads, and we just miss on a lot. We've had to reschedule recordings over and over again, so we're gonna do a couple things different. You know, when one of us has time, we're gonna do some little segments called Rolling Solo, and we'll get going with that. So today, college football is out of control this offseason. Michigan won the national championship, and it didn't even I don't even know what it was. Even 24 hours later that Nick Saban had retired, a complete end of an era. And then Kalen DeBoer, I'm terrible with names. The Washington Huskies former head coach just played in the national championship, ended up losing, turned Washington around, did a fantastic job, and bolted off to Alabama. And I thought it was a fantastic hire. And then chaos just ensued with just recruits jumping ship, transfers, so forth and so on. And then you got Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Reportedly, they spent $13 million on NIL deals to try to bulk up their roster. I don't know how you don't sit there and just look at it being Ryan Day and just being absolutely just, okay, it needs to happen now. We need a change. I don't want to say it's desperate. It comes off as desperate. But I guess taking advantage of a situation that presents itself with the current day college football and how things are. So all that happened. It's a whirlwind. It's been 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks. And then big announcement, Jim Harbaugh is taken off to the Los Angeles Chargers. A lot of people were speculating this for a long time. Jim Harbaugh never gave a really clear answer on anything. And a lot of people were assuming, a lot of people were denying. There were reports that he was going to go to Atlanta. He did interview there. Then there were reports that there was a second interview, which did never happen with Atlanta. And then on the day that Jim Harbaugh accepted the job, there were reports that he was actually in Michigan getting ready to sign a deal that would make him the biggest football coach, the highest paid football coach in all of college football. Well, it turns out, and I don't know how Michigan lets it slip by, but it turns out that was not the case. He was never in Ann Arbor. I guess he was in San Diego for like 36 hours straight, and they worked the deal out. Now, this is an absolute disaster when it comes to Michigan football. There were releases, there were statements made by Ward Manuel and Ono stating that, we tried everything we could to keep Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. But unfortunately, Jim Harbaugh, he's very known for him being very competitive and wanted to go back to the NFL. I don't blame Jim. What more is there to do after winning a national championship, other than just to keep building a dynasty? Look at Nick Saban. Kirby Smart is trying. Dabo Swinney was right there for a little while. He's still there, just a couple position pieces away. And Jim Harbaugh being the first national championship winning coach since Tom Osborne not to return to his team the following season. So there was a lot of speculation like, okay, now that this happened, Jim Harbaugh always just wanted to go back to the NFL. Well, that's not the case, with some reports coming out from Jim Harbaugh's lawyer that they waited pretty much they wanted pretty much. They waited till like the 11th hour, quoted by Jim Harbaugh's lawyer, to come up with the contract. This is where I don't know how Ward Manuel does not lose his job. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous that. So you have Michigan football since 2021. They've gone 40-3, 3 straight Big Ten titles, never happened before, and finally a national championship. Why on earth are you waiting till after the season to drop a deal to this man? He is totally. This doesn't happen. Jim Harbaugh, after the 2020 season, which was a disaster for a lot of programs, it was an off year. It was a weird year. It was the COVID year. Terrible. But now, after the 2020 season, he completely reinvented himself. He got new staff. He approached things differently. He went younger. Mike McDonald, Sharon Moore, and put together a team, a different kind of culture than what Michigan was used to for years, and was able to win the Big Ten championship, beat Ohio State, which no one saw coming. Beat Ohio State 3 years in a row. How do you beat Ohio State from the third year in a row on a contract year, and Ward Manuel does not have that contract ready? He should have been walking onto the field with it for Jim, with everything Jim wanted, and get it signed. Now, people, I mean, they're saying like Jim Harbaugh wanted immunity from what had happened. He didn't want immunity from what had happened. From what it sounds like, the NCAA straight out came out and said Michigan won it fair and square. They had the hardest part of their season come up. They beat, 3 AP top 5 teams in their last 6 games? They beat Penn State. They beat Ohio State. They beat Iowa. They beat Alabama. And they beat the Washington Huskies. When all this was said and done. Now, he wanted immunity from future events. Harbaugh was suspended without due process. That's crazy to me. That's crazy. He was suspended for 3 games by the Big Ten, and he was suspended for one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard with the cheeseburger incident. And, Ward Manuel did not have his back. He didn't have his back. He didn't fight for his coach. Never supported his coach. Never came out and supported him at all. So what has Ward Manuel done? He has probably let, in the modern era, the greatest Michigan football coach slide through his fingers. He let the baseball coach slide through his fingers. He let John Beilein slide through his fingers. And now the basketball program is an utter disaster. You have Nick Stauskas coming out, tweeting, like, pretty much saying this is garbage. These kids have no idea what it's like, the pride they should have when they put on that Block M. And, we were a contender for years under John Beilein. And we were a contender with John Beilein's guys with Juwan Howard. And now it is just absolute garbage. Juwan Howard is one of the worst basketball coaches I have ever seen, and it breaks my heart to say that since he was part of the Fab Five. But it is an absolute, utter disaster. Michigan baseball were contenders for a couple years. I don't know how you don't re-sign these coaches. Where's the proactiveness? Why are we being reactive? Why is Michigan being reactive? Terrible execution by the athletic director. I don't see Ward Manuel lasting very much longer. But where does Michigan go from here? It was inevitable. I guess one of the pros with Jim Harbaugh leaving is the turbulence is over. There's a podcast called Michigan Podcast with Steve Dace, and he has stated several times, it's a fantastic show. You should check him out when you get a chance. If you're a Michigan football fan, of course. But he states with Harbaugh, like, nothing is normal. There's nothing normal about this guy, and it can just be turbulence. He is a freaking lightning rod. He is an absolute lightning rod for the media. I was listening to Jim Rome today, and that's what he said. He goes, dude, the guy is good for publicity. He's good for it. He goes, the past 7-8 years, and even this last hour when they were talking about him, the guy just is a lightning rod for attention. So I guess I'm hoping that Michigan football can continue on its path that they're on, but just less turbulence. Like, man, Jim Harbaugh, man, he would rock a boat everywhere he's at. The off season, having to worry about if he's leaving or not. Last year, it looked like he was gone to Minnesota and ended up kind of returning like, oops, hey guys, I'm back. I think he did come back. So where does Michigan go next? Well, I think they got to go with Sharon Moore. Now, I mentioned Alabama before with Nick Saban retiring and then hiring the Washington Huskies head coach. And I thought initially, great hire. I don't think anyone's going to leave. Wow, was I wrong. Incredibly wrong. Alabama is just in chaos right now. They'll recover. I really do. I think they'll recover. But it is just an absolute madhouse over there, to where you had a solid structure and it's gone. So what does Michigan do? They have to hire from within. They must promote from within. And I don't know how they don't go with Sharon Moore. The players want him. Technically, I believe it's state law that the job has to be posted for, I believe, 7 or 8 days before a hire can happen. I've been looking on Indeed. I haven't seen it yet. But Sharon Moore would keep that culture. I don't think you'll see any main guys jumping ship. I think you would see a lot of people go, all right, it's time to roll. Zach Zinter, one of Michigan's greatest linemen of all time, stated, no interviews needed. It's Papa Moore's time. So I really think if they hire from within, promote from within, Michigan cannot go through another Rich Rod where that was just detrimental to the program. Look how long it took to recover from that. Years, over a decade of absolute garbage Michigan football. College football, hate it or like it, college football is better when Michigan is competitive. It's better when Ohio State is competitive. It's better when Alabama is competitive. It's better when Clemson is competitive. It would be better if Notre Dame was competitive. We need these programs to be competitive. USC needs to step it the hell up. So, that being said, I think Michigan needs to hire from within. And man, if I am Ward Manuel, I am throwing my checkbook at Jesse Minter. Has to happen. He must stay. Jim Harbaugh did state that he will help find his successor, and I don't see Jim Harbaugh just stripping everything away from Michigan. But I could be wrong. It would be nice, for Jim Harbaugh to say, hey, Jesse Minter, stick around for a little bit, get paid, do your job, and let's wait another year. Come on out. Jesse Minter is an NFL caliber defensive coordinator. You can't tell me otherwise. What he has done after Mike Macdonald, he's improved it. How crazy is that? Absolutely insane. So I really think for Michigan to save itself, needs to hire from within. I think Sharon Moore is going to blow up with recruiting. I really do. He has recruited and been a secondary recruiter to very, very high caliber players, J.J. McCarthy being one of them. So they need to stay on it. Keep it within the program, keep the culture together. And I'll say this, Like I said before, Jim Harbaugh reinvented the culture at Michigan. That was the beginning of it. Look at Dan Campbell in Detroit with the Detroit Lions. He reinvented the culture. You have to create the culture first. Then you build off of that. We're going to see it with Ohio State. They're not creating a culture. They're buying a roster. They are the 2001 Florida Marlins. We'll see if it pays off. If it does not pay off, if they raise $13 million and they don't have a natty or at least a Big Ten championship, Ryan Day's done. It'll be over. It's over. Michigan, thankfully, after Jim Harbaugh, we have the natty to sit on for a couple years and make a rebuilding process if it does happen. It will on offense. A rebuilding process will happen, and it'll make it a little easier to go through than it was, the years before when Harbaugh was just trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. So we'll see what happens. Ward Manuel, get your crap together. If you do not keep Sharon Moore, Michigan football is in serious trouble. All right, guys, that's going to wrap this segment up. I hope you enjoyed the first Rollin' Solo. Like, share, subscribe. Please share, comment, get interactive with us. We're having a blast doing this for you guys. And we'll talk to you sometime down the road. See you later.